You know how sometimes you catch yourself looking back at your life and wondering where the exact moment was that everything started to unravel? That's kind of what I've been doing lately, sitting in my little apartment with a half-empty bottle of wine on the counter and boxes I still haven't unpacked from when I moved out. For me, that moment wasn't dramatic. It wasn't some huge screaming fight or a betrayal I caught in the act. It was way quieter than that. It was just a Saturday morning in March when I looked across the breakfast table at my girlfriend of 3 years and realized I didn't know who she was anymore. We met in college. Classic cliche, mutual friends, late night parties, too much cheap beer, and inside jokes that seemed to glue us together instantly. She was the kind of person who could walk into a room and have everyone hanging on her words within 5 minutes. Confident, funny, magnetic. I was quieter, more reserved, and maybe that's why I was drawn to her. She filled in the empty spaces I didn't even know I had. After graduation, we moved in together. It felt like the next logical step. We got this tiny two-bedroom in the city, painted the walls ourselves, bought secondhand furniture off Facebook Marketplace, and joked about how broke we were, but how rich it felt just to be starting our life. The first year was honestly great. We were broke, yeah, but happy. Late night ramen dinners, laughing over dumb Netflix shows, splitting the rent with change scrounged from our couch cushions. It felt like us against the world. But somewhere around the second year, things started to shift. She got a job in marketing that ate up all her time. I was working as a software developer, which meant long hours for me too, but the difference was in how it bled into our lives. I still came home wanting to talk about my day, share a meal, maybe unwind together. She came home exhausted, phone in hand, scrolling through Slack messages even when we were supposed to be watching a movie. I'd say something like, "Hey, can you put that down for a sec?" And she'd sigh, like I was asking her to chop off an arm. "Babe, this is work. You don't get it. I can't just shut it off." At first, I let it slide. I told myself it was temporary, that once she adjusted, things would go back to normal. But they didn't. Instead, I started noticing other things. Like how she stopped asking about my day. How she'd laugh at something on her phone during dinner. But when I asked, she'd just say, "Oh, nothing," and tuck it away like it was some secret I wasn't allowed to be in on. Or how she started going out with work friends more often. Happy hours that turned into late nights. Conferences that required overnight stays. A new wardrobe that didn't look like her usual style. I tried to be supportive. I really did. I told myself this was part of being in a relationship with someone ambitious. But there was this gnawing pit in my stomach that wouldn't go away. The moment that pit turned into suspicion happened on that Saturday morning I mentioned. We were having breakfast, just toast and eggs, nothing fancy. She was sitting across from me, hair pulled back, wearing one of my sweatshirts, scrolling on her phone as usual. I asked her what her plans were for the day. She didn't look up. She just said, "Probably just going to hang with Sarah." Sarah is her coworker. Or at least, that's what she always told me. But something about the way she said it, casual, clipped like she'd rehearsed it, made my skin prickle. I asked, "Oh yeah? What are you guys doing?" She hesitated, just for a second, but I caught it. Maybe shopping? I don't know. Just girl stuff. I wanted to believe her. God, I wanted to believe her. But my gut screamed otherwise. So later that day, when she said she was heading out, I did something I'd never done before. Something I'm still not proud of. I followed her. Not in some movie style, hiding behind bushes way. I just got in my car a few minutes after she left and drove the same direction. She didn't notice. She drove across town, not to the mall, not to any place I recognized. Instead, she pulled into this little cafe. I parked far enough away not to be seen and watched as she got out of the car. And then I saw him. Tall, well-dressed, maybe mid-30s. Definitely not Sarah. He walked up, and the way her face lit up, I hadn't seen her smile like that in months. She hugged him, long too long, and then they went inside together. I sat there in my car, heart pounding, palms sweaty, staring through the windshield like the world had just tilted sideways. Part of me wanted to storm in right then and there, demand answers, make a scene. But another part of me froze. Because if I confronted her, it would make it real. And I wasn't ready for that. So I drove away. That night, when she came home, she acted like nothing had happened. Tossed her bag on the counter, kicked off her shoes, and asked if I wanted to order Chinese. like she hadn't just spent the afternoon with another man. I said yes. I ate lo mein with her on the couch, pretending I didn't know, pretending I wasn't choking on betrayal with every bite. And I've been pretending ever since. But I don't know how much longer I can. For the next week after I followed her, I lived in this strange limbo. Outwardly, everything looked the same. We still shared a bed. We still ate dinner together. We still watched Netflix shows half-heartedly before she drifted off with her phone glowing in her hand. But inside, I was spiraling. Every time she smiled at me, I wondered if she had smiled at him the same way. Every time she said she loved me, I replayed that hug in the cafe parking lot and thought, who else are you saying this to? I became hyper-aware of everything she did. The way she lingered in the bathroom with her phone. The sudden bursts of laughter from the other room when she thought I wasn't paying attention. The way she always angled her screen away, just slightly, whenever I walked by. I didn't want to turn into the paranoid boyfriend stereotype. That wasn't me. I prided myself on being laid back, trusting. But now I was checking the clock when she left, comparing it to when she came home. I was memorizing the sound of her notifications, trying to tell which were work-related and which weren't. One night, about 5 days after the cafe, I cracked. She was in the shower. Her phone was on the nightstand. Screen lit up with a notification. I swear, I didn't mean to look, but it flashed long enough for me to catch a name I didn't recognize. Evan. My heart hammered. I told myself not to do it. I told myself I'd hate myself if I crossed that line. But my hands didn't listen. I picked up the phone, opened the messages. There he was. Evan. The thread was long. Weeks, maybe months of back and forth. Not just work talk. Not even close. It was flirty, intimate, personal in ways she hadn't been with me for months. You always make me laugh. I don't know what I'd do without you. I wish we had more time together. And then, the one that broke me. Last night was perfect. Can't stop thinking about it. I dropped the phone like it had burned me. My stomach flipped while rising in my throat. I sat there on the edge of the bed, head in my hands, listening to the sound of the shower running and wondering how the hell my life had turned into this. When she came out, towel wrapped around her, humming like nothing in the world was wrong, I almost screamed. The words were on the tip of my tongue. Who the hell is Evan? But I choked them back. I couldn't do it. Not yet. Because as much as I wanted answers, I also wanted to pretend for just a little longer. Pretend that maybe I was wrong, that maybe I'd misread everything, that maybe the reality I'd been living in for 3 years wasn't about to implode. So I waited. But waiting didn't mean peace. It meant carrying a grenade in my chest, the pin already pulled, just waiting for it to blow. The next few days were torture. Every time her phone buzzed, I pictured his name lighting up her screen. Every time she left the house, I imagined her with him. I couldn't sleep, couldn't focus at work. My code was full of errors. My boss pulled me aside twice to ask if I was okay. I lied, of course. Said I was just tired. The truth was, I was unraveling. Finally, one Friday night, I broke. She came home late, again. Smelled like perfume that wasn't hers. Her hair was mussed in a way that didn't look like a long day at the office. She dropped her bag by the door, kicked off her heels, and flopped on the couch like nothing was wrong. And I snapped. Who's Evan? The room went dead silent. Her head whipped toward me, eyes wide, mouth opening like a fish gasping for air. For a split second, I saw it all. The guilt, the panic, the scrambling for an excuse. And then she recovered. What? She asked too quickly. I stood, heart pounding in my ears. Don't play dumb. I saw the messages. Her face went pale, then flushed, then hardened. You went through my phone? That was her first response. Not denial, not an explanation, not even an apology. Just outrage that I'd caught her. I laughed. It came out sharp, bitter. That's what you're worried about? Not the fact that you've been sneaking around behind my back. She stood, arms crossed, defensive. It's not what you think. Oh, really? Because what I think is that you've been cheating on me for months. What I think is that you've been lying every time you said you were with Sarah or working late. What I think is that I've been a complete idiot for trusting you. Her jaw clenched. I didn't sleep with him. I stared at her, searching her face for any scrap of truth. Then what the hell does last night was perfect mean? She looked away, and that was my answer. I felt something inside me crack, clean and sharp like glass shattering. The room blurred around me. My voice dropped to a whisper. Why? Why him? Why not just talk to me if something was wrong? She didn't answer right away. She just stood there, arms wrapped around herself like she was cold. Finally, she muttered, "Because you're never home. Because when you are, you're tired, you're distracted." I needed someone who made me feel seen. The words cut deeper than I expected, because maybe there was truth in them. Maybe I'd been distant, too wrapped up in work, too comfortable in the routine we'd built. But instead of telling me, instead of trying to fix it together, she chose him. I shook my head, tears stinging my eyes. You don't get to blame me for your choices. You don't get to turn this around like it's my fault you cheated. I didn't, she started. Don't, I snapped. Don't you dare minimize it. You betrayed me. End of story. We stood there, staring at each other across the living room. The silence heavier than any fight we'd ever had. Finally, I grabbed my keys. I can't do this right now. And I left. I drove aimlessly for hours through neighborhoods I didn't recognize, past bars and gas stations and quiet streets lined with sleeping houses. I ended up in a 24-hour diner at 2 a.m., nursing a bad cup of coffee and staring at the Formica table while the reality of it all crashed over me. She cheated. She lied. And now I had to figure out what the hell to do next. When I walked back into our apartment the next morning, the place felt different. Not physically. The couch was still there, the dishes still piled in the sink, her shoes still kicked haphazardly by the door. But the air felt heavier, like the walls themselves knew what had gone down. She was sitting at the kitchen table, cup of coffee in her hands, staring at nothing. Her hair was tied back, her eyes rimmed red like she hadn't slept. She looked up when I walked in, and for a second, I saw the girl I used to know. The girl I fell in love with. The girl who used to make ramen with me at midnight and laugh so hard she cried. But then the memory of her with Evan slammed into me, and that image shattered. "We need to talk," she said quietly. I set my keys on the counter. "Yeah, we do." The silence stretched out. Neither of us seemed to know where to start. Finally, I broke it. "How long?" Her hands tightened around the mug. "A few months." I nodded, jaw tight. And it wasn't just talking. She shook her head, almost shamefully. "No, it wasn't." Hearing her say it out loud was like a punch to the gut. Even though I already knew, even though I'd seen the messages, having her confirm it made it real in a way I hadn't been ready for. "Why him?" I asked, my voice cracking despite my best effort to stay calm. She hesitated. He listened. He made me feel like I mattered. I laughed bitterly. "So what? I didn't matter." Her eyes filled with tears. "That's not what I meant. You matter. Of course you matter. But somewhere along the way, it felt like we stopped being us. Like you were here, but not really here. And I was lonely. And I made the worst possible choice instead of talking to you about it." I leaned back against the counter, trying to steady myself. Her words stung because part of me knew they weren't completely false. I had been distant. I had buried myself in work. But the difference between us was that I hadn't gone looking for comfort in someone else's arms. "So what now?" I asked, voice flat. She looked at me with this desperate hope in her eyes. "I want to fix this. I want to work on us. Please, I'll do whatever it takes." I shook my head slowly. "You don't get it. This isn't just about fixing us. You broke something that doesn't get fixed. Trust. Once that's gone, it doesn't just come back because you're sorry." Tears spilled down her cheeks. "I love you." I closed my eyes, letting out a shaky breath. "I love you too. But love isn't enough when there's no trust." The words hung in the air like a death sentence. We sat there for what felt like hours, both of us crying in our own ways. Her openly, me silently, letting the tears sting but refusing to sob in front of her. It felt like mourning a death. And in a way it was the death of everything we'd built, everything we thought we'd have. By the end of the day, I packed a bag. Just the essentials. She begged me not to go, said we could try counseling, said she'd cut Evan out completely. But it was too late. "You should have thought about that before," I told her. And then I walked out. Moving in with my buddy Mark wasn't glamorous. His apartment smelled like old pizza, and the couch I crashed on was lumpy as hell. But it was safe. It was mine. And most importantly, it wasn't full of lies. The first few weeks were rough. I won't lie. I missed her like hell. I'd wake up reaching for her and feel this wave of emptiness when my hand landed on an old blanket instead. I'd hear a song on the radio and have to pull over because it reminded me of some road trip we took together. But then little by little, things started to shift. Mark dragged me out to play basketball one night, and for the first time in months, I actually laughed. I started focusing on work again, pouring my energy into projects instead of into wondering where she was. I call my mom more. I started cooking for myself, experimenting with recipes that didn't come from a takeout menu. I even joined a local running group, something I never would have done when I was with her because I was always too tired or too distracted. And here's the surprising part. I started to feel good. Not all the time, not every day, but enough to see that there was life after her. She texted me, of course, at first begging, then apologizing, then angry when I didn't respond. I deleted the messages without reading them. Eventually, they stopped. Months later, I ran into her downtown. She looked different, thinner, maybe more tired. She smiled, small and sad, and we exchanged a few polite words. She said she was sorry again. I told her I hoped she was doing okay. And that was it. No dramatic scene, no rekindled flame. Just two people who used to love each other, standing on opposite sides of a chasm they couldn't cross anymore. Walking away that day, I felt lighter. Like I'd finally put down a weight I didn't realize I'd been carrying. I'm not saying I've got it all figured out now. I'm not saying I'm completely healed. But I'm moving forward. And that's enough. If you've made it this far, thanks for sticking with me. These stories aren't easy to share, but being able to put them out there helps me process them in ways I never could alone. And honestly, when you subscribe, it gives me the motivation to keep going, to keep opening up and bringing more stories like this. So if you want to hear more, hit that button. It means more than you know. You ever have one of those moments where you look around your own life and think, wait a second, how the hell did I get here? That's been me for the past few months. I used to think I had the perfect setup, decent job, good apartment, girlfriend who I thought was solid, and a best friend who'd been like my brother since middle school. We were the type of duo people joked about. If you saw me, you saw him. Everyone called us a package deal. So when my girlfriend, Kelly, started warming up to him, I thought it was great. No weird tension, no competing for my time, just easy, fun group hangouts. But what I didn't realize was that warming up would turn into something a lot more complicated and honestly, a lot more painful. The first time I felt the shift was stupidly small. We were at a barbecue, the three of us crammed on my tiny balcony with burgers and cheap beer. Kelly laughed at one of his dumb jokes, like really laughed. The kind of laugh she usually reserved for our inside jokes. I brushed it off, but the thought stuck. A week later, she started texting him memes. She'd show me her phone, saying, "Look what Matt sent me." Like it was nothing. And maybe it was nothing, but it planted this seed in my brain I couldn't shake. Then came the night that really set things off. We were all supposed to meet at a bar. I got caught up at work and texted them that I'd be an hour late. By the time I arrived, I found them at a corner booth, sitting way too close, leaning in, talking like I wasn't even there. Kelly barely noticed when I walked up. Matt slapped me on the back like everything was fine, but the vibe was off. You know how sometimes you just walk into a room and feel like you interrupted something? That was me. From then on, I started noticing everything. The way she smiled at her phone when his name popped up. The way he lingered when he hugged her goodbye. The way conversations would stop cold when I walked into the room. I told myself I was overthinking, being jealous, paranoid. But then one night, I woke up to Kelly's phone buzzing on the nightstand. Normally, I wouldn't even think to check, but she'd left it face up and the preview of the message from Matt read. Last night was fun. Can't wait till next time. My stomach dropped. I didn't open the thread. I just lay there in the dark, staring at the ceiling, my mind running in circles. What the hell did last night mean? The next morning, I tried to play it cool. Over breakfast, I asked her casually, "So, what did you end up doing last night?" I crashed early. She didn't even flinch. "Oh, just watched some Netflix and went to bed." And right then, I knew she was lying. But here's the thing, I didn't call her out. I wanted to catch her in it, to have something concrete instead of just accusations. So I bit my tongue and pretended everything was normal. That whole week, I felt like I was living in a bad dream. I watched her closer than ever. Every time she grabbed her phone and turned away slightly, My chest tightened. Every time she mentioned Matt, my blood boiled. By Friday, I couldn't take it anymore. I texted Matt and asked if he wanted to grab a drink, just the two of us. He said sure, like nothing was weird. We met at this dive bar we've been going to since college. Cheap wings, sticky tables, bad lighting. Normally it felt like home, but that night I felt like I was walking into enemy territory. We sat down, ordered beers, and I cut straight to it. I gotta ask you something, man. Are you and Kelly? Is there something going on? He froze mid-sip, his eyes flicking up to mine. What? No, dude. Why would you even think that? I stared him down. Because I'm not blind. You two act different around each other. And I saw that text. His face paled, then flushed red. Jesus Christ. You went through her phone. I didn't have to. It popped up on the screen. You texted her about last night. Want to explain that? He stammered. It wasn't what you think. We just looked. She called me after you went to bed. Said she was feeling down. I came over and we hung out for a bit. That's it. My heart was hammering. Hung out how? Just talked. Drank a beer. Nothing happened, I swear. But the way he said it, the way his voice cracked and his hands fidgeted, I didn't believe him. I leaned back, shaking my head. You're supposed to be my best friend. If you're lying to me about this, we're done. You get that, right? He held my gaze for a long time, then finally muttered, I'm not lying. But deep down, I knew he was. For the next week, the tension was unbearable. I couldn't bring myself to confront Kelly directly, but I also couldn't look at her the same way. Every touch felt forced. Every smile looked fake. I kept imagining her with him, laughing, leaning close, maybe even kissing. One night, I decided to test her. I told her I was going out with coworkers, but instead I parked a few blocks away and walked back quietly. My heart raced as I approached the apartment. Sure enough, through the half-drawn blinds, I saw Matt on my couch. Kelly was next to him, their heads bent close over something on her phone, laughing together like they didn't have a care in the world. I didn't see them kiss. I didn't see anything physical. But honestly, that was enough. The way she looked at him was the way she used to look at me. I stood there for a long time, staring in through the glass, my fists clenched, my throat tight. Then I turned around and walked away because I knew if I went in there right then, I'd say something I couldn't take back. And that's where I'm stuck now. Do I confront her with what I saw? Do I cut them both out of my life? Or do I keep pretending until I have undeniable proof? Because part of me still hopes I'm wrong, but the other part knows I'm not. I didn't sleep that night after seeing them through the blinds. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, my mind running like a hamster wheel. Every scenario played out in my head. Walking in, demanding answers, catching them red-handed, or maybe just leaving without a word. By morning, I convinced myself I needed to be strategic. If I confronted her too soon, she'd just deny everything and twist it back on me. If I pushed Matt, he'd dig in his heels again. What I needed was proof. Something undeniable. So I started paying closer attention. Every detail mattered now. On Tuesday, Kelly told me she was working late. I decided to drive by her office. Her car wasn't in the lot. Instead, I spotted it parked 2 blocks down outside a small wine bar. Through the window, I saw her sitting across from Matt. They weren't touching, but their body language said everything. Leaning in, heads tilted, smiling like it was their own little world. I took a picture with my phone, my hands shaking so hard I almost dropped it. I didn't confront them right then. I just drove home and sat in the dark again, staring at the photo until my vision blurred. The next day, I tried to act normal, but my patience was gone. When she got home, I said casually, "So, how was work last night?" She didn't even flinch. Busy like always. That was it. The lie. Clear as day. My blood boiled. I pulled out my phone and set on the counter between us. Funny, because I drove by your office and your car wasn't there. Want to try again? Her face went pale. For a second, I thought she might come clean, but instead, she crossed her arms and said, "You're spying on me now? That's insane. Don't flip this on me," I snapped. "I saw you. At the wine bar. With Matt." Her lips pressed into a thin line. She didn't answer. "Say something," I demanded. Finally, she whispered, "It's not what you think." God, I was so sick of that line. Then what the hell is it, Kelly? Because from where I'm standing, it looks like my girlfriend and my best friend are sneaking around behind my back. Tears welled up in her eyes. We're not sleeping together. I slammed my fist on the counter. That's your defense? That you're not technically cheating? You're lying to me, hiding things, meeting him in secret. Do you think that's somehow better? She started crying harder. I didn't mean for her to get this far. I needed someone to talk to, and you've been so distant lately. He was there. He understood. I laughed bitterly. So you chose him over me. My best friend. Do you even hear how messed up that is? She reached for me, but I pulled back. Please, she whispered. I never wanted to hurt you, but she already had. That night, I texted Matt and told him to meet me. No excuses. We ended up at the same dive bar, the same sticky table, but this time I wasn't in the mood for small talk. You lied to me, I said the second he sat down. He looked wary. About what? I pulled out my phone and showed him the picture of him and Kelly at the wine bar. About this. She told me she was at work. You told me nothing was going on. So go ahead, explain it now. His face drained of color. He ran a hand through his hair, then muttered, shit. That's all you've got? Shit. He looked me in the eye, guilt written all over his face. We didn't sleep together, man. I swear on my life. But yeah, we've been hanging out. Talking. More than we should. I felt like my chest was caving in. Do you love her? He flinched. I don't know. It's not like that. It just happened. Not like that. I repeated, my voice cracking. You're supposed to be my brother. My ride or die. And you're sneaking around with my girlfriend like some middle school crush. He put his head in his hands. I didn't mean for it to get this far. You didn't mean it, but you kept doing it, I shot back. Every time you answered her texts, every time you went to meet her, you made a choice. And every choice was betrayal. He had no comeback. Just sat there, looking like a kid who'd been caught stealing. Finally, I stood up. We're done, Matt. Whatever friendship we had, it's over. Don't call me. Don't come around. You made your choice. His voice broke. Don't do this, man. Don't cut me out. But I walked away, leaving him sitting in the wreckage of what used to be us. Back home, Kelly was waiting. She'd clearly been crying all night. Did you talk to him? She asked, her voice small. Yeah, I said coldly. He admitted it. Her face crumpled. I am sorry. I didn't mean for any of this to happen. I stared at her, at the woman I thought I knew, and all I felt was emptiness. You meant every single choice you made, and now I can't trust either of you. She reached for me again, sobbing, but I stepped back. Don't. We're done. The look on her face when I said it will haunt me forever. But I couldn't stay. Not after everything. The next few days were a blur. I packed a bag and crashed at a buddy's place. Kelly blew up my phone with messages, begging me to reconsider, promising nothing physical ever happened. My parents even called, saying Matt was a wreck, that he wanted to fix things. But how do you fix trust once it's shattered? I don't know if I'll ever have an answer to that. And that's where I'm at now. Heartbroken, betrayed, and questioning everything I thought I knew about the people closest to me. I didn't expect the fallout to last this long, but maybe that was naive of me. When you live with someone and your lives are that deeply intertwined, you don't just pull the plug and expect silence after. There's an echo, a long, exhausting echo that follows you everywhere. After the night I confronted him, I packed up a few essentials and moved into my sister's place temporarily. She lives about 25 minutes away in a little townhouse with 2 spare rooms. It wasn't glamorous, but it was warm and quiet, and it was away from the mess. The first couple mornings there, I kept waking up confused. My body expected to hear his alarm, his footsteps in the hallway, the sound of the coffee maker sputtering in the kitchen. But instead, I woke to silence. It was eerie at first, like being dropped into a world I didn't belong to. He blew up my phone for days. Long texts, short texts, angry texts, apologetic texts. It was a roller coaster of, I'm sorry, please come home, followed immediately by, I can't believe you betray me like this, followed by, love you, don't throw this away. I didn't answer, at least not at first. The third day after I left, I finally sent him a single text. It just said, I need space. Stop messaging me. He didn't. By the end of the week, he was showing up at my sister's door, knocking, begging talk. My sister, bless her, stood guard like a bouncer. She told him flat out that if he didn't leave, she'd call the cops. He left that night. But 2 days later, there was a letter slipped under the door. His handwriting, 8 pages. He laid it all out. How the girl was just a friend, how he never crossed a line, how he felt lonely and unappreciated and turned to someone else emotionally. He swore it was never physical. Reading it, my stomach turned, because in his mind, he still thought it wasn't cheating. That's the part that broke me. It wasn't about the technicalities. It wasn't about whether they kissed or slept together. It was about the hours he spent confiding in her instead of me. The lies he told to cover it up, the intimacy he shared that wasn't ours. And now, instead of owning that, he wanted to redefine it so he wouldn't look like the bad guy. I ripped the letter in half and threw it away. But here's the thing. Even as I was standing firm, I was grieving. God, I was grieving so hard. You don't just stop loving someone because they hurt you. You don't just flip a switch and erase the good moments. And that's what made it so hard. Every time I wanted to scream about the betrayal, my brain would counter with, but remember that road trip? Remember the way he looked at you when you graduated? Remember the night you got sick and he stayed up all night taking care of you? It was like fighting myself every single day. Around the 2-week mark, I started therapy. Best decision I've made in years. My therapist, a woman named Dr. Lane, didn't try to sugarcoat anything. She didn't feed me cliches. She just listened, then asked one question. Do you want him back? Or do you want to heal? I sat there staring at her because my gut reaction was both. But that's not how it works. You can't fully heal while clinging to the person who broke you. So I chose healing. The next time he tried to reach me, another text, another desperate voicemail, I blocked him. Phone, email, social media. All of it. It was brutal, like cutting off a limb, but it was the only way. The silence after that was different. Not eerie this time, but cleansing. Like standing outside after a storm when everything is still wet and broken, but you can finally breathe. Slowly, the little things started coming back. I laughed again, genuinely laughed, at a stupid movie with my sister. I cooked dinner without crying halfway through because it reminded me of him. I walked around Target and didn't feel like the world was spinning out from under me. And then, one morning, I woke up and realized I hadn't thought about him for a full day. Not once. That's when I knew I was moving forward. Do I still miss him sometimes? Yeah. Do I still get a pang in my chest when I see couples holding hands or when a certain song plays? Absolutely. Healing isn't a straight line, but every day that passes, I feel a little stronger, a little more like me. And here's the part that really surprised me. I don't hate him. Not anymore. I'm angry at what he did, sure. I am disappointed, but I don't want revenge. I don't wish him misery. I just want him out of my story. So that's what I'm doing. Writing him out, one day at a time, and writing myself back in. If you stuck with me this far, thank you. Seriously, sharing this hasn't been easy, but it's given me more clarity than I expected. And if you've ever been through something like this, I hope you know you're not alone. Also, if you've been following along with these stories, hitting that subscribe button really does give me the motivation to keep going and share more of them. The support means the world, and it keeps me pushing forward to bring you the next one. I never thought I'd be the guy questioning his own brother. Out of all the people in the world, my younger brother, Jason, was the last person I ever thought I'd doubt. We grew up glued at the hip, sharing a bedroom until high school, sneaking out together, covering for each other when we screwed up. He wasn't just my brother. He was my best friend. But now I'm sitting here wondering if the woman I married has been sneaking around with him. I know how insane that sounds. Believe me, I wish I was imagining things. But let me back up a little. I'm 34, my wife's 31, and Jason's 29. He and I have always been close, and when I got married 3 years ago, he naturally became part of our little family circle. He'd come over for barbecues, help with the yard, crash on our couch after too many beers. At first, I loved it. It felt like blending the two most important parts of my life, my wife, Anna, and my brother. But somewhere along the line, things started feeling off. It started small. I'd come home from work and find them laughing on the back porch, beers in hand, like they'd been hanging out for hours. No big deal, right? Except when I asked what was so funny, they'd give each other that look, the kind of look people share when they've got an inside joke. A look I wasn't part of. Then there were the texts. I know, I shouldn't snoop, but one night Anna left her phone on the counter and the screen lit up with a message from Jason. Can't wait to see you tomorrow. I try to brush it off. Jason and I had planned to grab lunch the next day, so maybe he was just talking about that. But the pit in my stomach wouldn't go away. Over the next few weeks, I started noticing more. The way Anna suddenly cared about her appearance when she knew Jason was coming by. The way Jason would light up when she walked into the room. The way conversations seemed to pause when I entered, like I'd interrupted something. I told myself I was paranoid, that my brain was just making connections that weren't there. After all, this was my brother, the guy who once punched another kid in the face for calling me names in middle school. The guy who helped me move 3 times without asking for anything but pizza and beer. The guy who gave a heartfelt speech at my wedding, telling everyone how lucky I was to have found Anna. But then something happened I couldn't ignore. One Saturday, I came home earlier than expected from running errands. I pulled into the driveway and saw Jason's car parked out front. Not unusual, but when I walked inside, the house was quiet. Too quiet. Anna. I called. No answer. I checked the kitchen. Empty. The living room. Empty. Then I heard it. Laughter, muffled, coming from upstairs. My chest tightened as I climbed the stairs. I don't know what I expected, but when I pushed open the bedroom door, I froze. They weren't in bed together. Thank God. But there they were, sitting on the floor, backs against the bed, sharing a pizza, watching something on Jason's phone, laughing like teenagers. It might not sound like much, but the sight hit me like a punch to the gut. This was our space, our room, and there was my wife sitting shoulder to shoulder with my brother in a bubble I wasn't part of. They both looked up, startled. Anna jumped a little, then smiled nervously. Hey, babe. Jason brought pizza. We were just hanging out. Jason grinned like nothing was wrong. Yeah, man, you want a slice? I wanted to scream. I wanted to ask them what the hell they thought they were doing. But instead, I just mumbled something about being tired and went back downstairs. That night, lying next to Anna, I couldn't stop replaying the scene in my head. Was I overreacting? Was it innocent? Or was there something more, something neither of them would admit? Things got worse from there. Anna started going out more, claiming it was girls' nights. But every time, Jason's social media would be suspiciously quiet, like he was also busy at the same time. When I asked him about it, he'd brush it off with vague answers. Finally, I couldn't take it anymore. I confronted Anna. Is there something going on between you and Jason? I asked one night, my voice shaking. She looked at me like I'd just accused her of murder. Are you serious? That's your brother. How could you even think that? Because I see the way you two are around each other. The looks, the texts, the whatever it is you're hiding from me. She shook her head, tears welling up. Nothing's happening. I swear. Jason's like a brother to me. That's all. But my gut wouldn't let it go. And that's where I am now, stuck between loving my wife, trusting my brother, and this gnawing suspicion that the two people closest to me might be betraying me in the worst way possible. I don't have proof. Not yet. But I can't ignore the signs anymore. Something's going on. And I'm terrified that when I finally find out the truth, it's going to destroy everything. The weeks after that confrontation with Anna were some of the most confusing and exhausting of my life. On the surface, nothing really changed. Anna still kissed me goodbye before work. Jason still showed up on Sundays with a six-pack and a grin. We still went through the motions of being a happy couple, a close family. But underneath, everything felt different. I couldn't look at either of them without second-guessing. Was her smile genuine? Was his laugh hiding something? Was I imagining the way their eyes seemed to linger just a second too long when they looked at each other? It was like living with a constant buzzing in my brain, an alarm I couldn't turn off. One night, after Anna fell asleep, I sat in the dark with my phone in my hand, debating whether to go through her messages. I knew it was wrong. I hated the idea of being that guy, the paranoid husband snooping on his wife. But the not knowing was eating me alive. Finally, I gave in. My hands shook as I unlocked her phone. I'd seen her passcode 100 times. I opened her texts. At first, nothing seemed unusual. Messages with her coworkers, her mom, a few friends. Then I scrolled down to Jason's thread. My chest tightened. It wasn't full of incriminating messages, at least not outright. But there were enough little things to make my stomach flip. Thanks for today. You always know how to cheer me up. Don't tell him about that. He'll freak, LOL. See you tomorrow. Smiley face. None of it proved anything, but the tone, it felt too familiar. too intimate. Like they had this whole separate relationship I wasn't part of. I locked the phone and set it back on a nightstand, my heart pounding. Anna stirred beside me, murmured something in her sleep, and rolled over. I barely slept that night. The next day, I tried to confront Jason instead. We were in the garage, tinkering with some tools, when I blurted it out. "Are you and Anna? Is something going on between you two?" He froze, wrench in his hand, then slowly turned to look at me. "What the hell, man? No, absolutely not." "You're sure?" "Because some of the stuff I've seen." He cut me off. "You're my brother. I never do that to you. Ever. I love Anna, but like a sister." That's it. His voice sounded firm, almost offended. But something in his eyes made me wonder if he was holding back. "I want to believe you," I muttered. "Then do," he said sharply. "Because you accusing me of this, it's messed up." I nodded, but the pit in my stomach only grew. After that, I tried to let it go. Really, I did. But the little things kept piling up. One night, Anna came home late from one of her supposed girls' nights. She smelled faintly of Jason's cologne, a scent I knew well because he'd been wearing the same brand for years. Another time, I caught Jason slipping out of our backyard gate at dusk. He claimed he'd just come by to drop off a tool he'd borrowed, but when I asked Anna about it later, she acted like she hadn't seen him all day. And then there was the final straw. I was driving home from work, later than usual, and decided to swing by the little diner Anna loved. As I pulled into the lot, my headlights swept across the front windows, and there they were, Anna and Jason, sitting across from each other in a booth, leaning in close, laughing. They didn't see me. I killed my engine and just sat there, staring through the glass, my stomach in knots. It wasn't like they were making out or holding hands, but the way they looked at each other, relaxed, happy, like two people sharing something private, it broke me. I couldn't bring myself to go inside. Instead, I drove home, sat in the dark living room, and waited. When Anna finally came in, hours later, she looked surprised to see me awake. "Hey," she said casually. "Sorry I'm late. The girls wanted another round of drinks." I stared at her, my chest aching. "How was Jason?" Her eyes flickered, just for a second, before she forced a smile. "Jason? I didn't see him." That was it. The lie was so obvious, so brazen, that something inside me snapped. I didn't yell. I didn't throw anything. I just said, "I know. I saw you. At the diner. With him." Anna's face drained of color. She opened her mouth, closed it again, then whispered, "It's not what you think." "Then what is it?" I demanded, because from where I'm standing, it looks like my wife and my brother have been sneaking around behind my back. Tears welled up her eyes. "We're not sleeping together, I swear. We talk. That's all. Talk. You lie to me about where you're going just to talk." She wiped her face with trembling hands. "You don't understand. Sometimes it's easier to talk to him than to you. He listens. He doesn't judge. I needed someone, and that someone had to be my brother." My voice cracked. She sobbed. "I didn't mean for it to happen like this. I never wanted to hurt you." I didn't know what to say. My heart felt like it was splitting in two. On one hand, she was insisting nothing physical had happened. On the other, she was admitting she'd been confiding in Jason behind my back, lying to me, sneaking around. Emotional cheating. That's what it was. And somehow, it almost hurt worse than if they'd slept together. I slept on the couch that night, staring at the ceiling until dawn. And now, I'm left with this impossible question. Do I believe her? Do I believe him? Or do I accept that the two people I trusted most have betrayed me, even if they won't admit it out loud? That night on the couch, I didn't sleep a minute. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Anna's face across that diner table, leaning in toward Jason like they were in their own little world. Every time I shifted, I replayed her words in my head, "We just talk," and it cut deeper than I thought possible. By sunrise, I had made up my mind. I couldn't live in limbo anymore. I needed the truth, and if I had to drag it out of them, then so be it. Anna came into the living room with puffy eyes and a blanket wrapped around her shoulders. She looked at me like she was about to beg, but I spoke first. "Call Jason. Tell him to come over. Now." Her mouth opened, then closed again. For a moment, she just stood there, clutching the blanket tighter, like she was deciding whether to fight me on it. Finally, she nodded and went to get her phone. 20 minutes later, Jason walked in, looking wary but trying to keep his usual laid-back grin. "What's going on?" he asked, glancing between me and Anna. I motioned for him to sit. My heart was pounding so hard I thought I might pass out, but I forced myself to keep my voice steady. "We're going to talk. All of us. And this time, nobody gets to hide behind half-truths." Anna sat beside me, trembling. Jason perched on the arm of the chair across from us, his hands clenched. I started with the diner. "I saw you too, laughing, leaning in like you didn't have a care in the world. Anna came home and lied about it. You both looked me in the eye and swore nothing was happening. So tell me now, together, what the hell is going on?" Jason's grin vanished. He stared at the floor, jaw tight. Anna reached for his arm, then thought better of it and pulled back. Finally, Jason said, "It's not what you think." I let out a bitter laugh. "Funny, that's exactly what she said. You expect me to believe it's just coincidence." He shook his head. "We weren't hooking up. That's the truth. But we were meeting, talking, sometimes more than we should." "Why?" My voice cracked. "Why him, Anna? Out of everyone in the world, you had to turn my brother." Anna's eyes filled with tears again. "Because he listened. Because you've been so distant lately, wrapped up in work, coming home exhausted, snapping at me without meaning to. I didn't want to dump everything on you." Jason was there. He made it easy. Jason finally looked up at me. His eyes were red. "I swear to you, I never crossed the line physically. I thought I was helping her, being a friend. But yeah, it went too far. We got attached. We let the boundaries blur." The room spun around me. I pressed my fists against my temples, trying to make sense of it. "So what? I'm just supposed to accept that my wife and my brother decided to build their own secret little relationship? That it's fine because you didn't sleep together?" Silence. "Do you love him?" I asked Anna, my voice barely a whisper. She flinched like I'd slapped her. "No, I love you. I always have. But I won't lie. I leaned on him in ways I shouldn't have. And I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." I turned to Jason. "And you? Do you have feelings for her?" His face twisted in pain. He didn't answer right away. That silence was all I needed. I stood up, my whole body shaking. "Get out," I told him. "Both of you. I can't look at either of you right now." Jason tried to protest, but I cut him off with a roar I didn't know I had in me. "Get out." Anna burst into tears. Jason grabbed his jacket. They both left, and the slam of the door echoed through the house like a gunshot. The days that followed were the loneliest I've ever lived. The house felt hollow. I avoided calls from both of them. Anna moved in with her sister. Jason stayed away, though my parents kept calling me, begging me to talk to him, insisting that brothers shouldn't let something like this destroy their bond. But to me, it wasn't something like this. It was everything. Trust, love, loyalty gone. After about a week, Anna came back to get some of her things. We stood in the kitchen, silent, until she finally said, "I want to try counseling. Please. I know I messed up, but I don't want to throw away our marriage." I looked at her, really looked at her, and all I saw was the woman who had lied straight to my face while sneaking around with my brother. Even if she hadn't touched him, she had chosen him over me in every way that mattered. "I can't," I said softly. "I can't do it anymore. Every time I close my eyes, I see you with him. I'll never stop wondering if you're telling me the truth. That's no way to live." Her knees buckled like I'd punched her. She sobbed, begged, promised it would be different. But deep down, I knew we were already done. As for Jason, he finally showed up one night, standing on my porch with tears in his eyes. "Please, man," he said, "don't cut me out. I screwed up. I know I did. But you're my brother. I can't lose you." I stared at him, feeling a mix of rage and grief I couldn't untangle. "You already lost me," I whispered and shut the door in his face. That was 6 months ago. The divorce papers are signed. Anna moved out permanently. Jason and I haven't spoken since. My parents still beg me to reconcile, but I can't bring myself to. Maybe one day, but not now. Not when the wound is still so raw. I don't know if Anna and Jason still talk. Honestly, I don't want to know. All I know is that the two people I trusted most in this world taught me the hardest lesson of my life. Sometimes betrayal doesn't come with lipstick on a collar or a stranger's perfume. Sometimes it comes in whispers and laughter across a diner booth, in secrets shared that should have been mine. And that kind of betrayal can destroy everything. If you've made it this far, thank you for listening to my story. It's hard to put this stuff out there, but sharing it makes me feel less alone. If you want me to keep bringing more stories like this, please subscribe. It really does give me the motivation to dig up and tell even more of these real, raw experiences. I never thought I'd be the kind of guy who would air his dirty laundry online, but sometimes you just need to put it all out there, because keeping it inside will drive you insane. So here goes. I'm a 32-year-old guy, been married to my wife, Claire, for almost 7 years. We met in college, back when everything felt like it was falling perfectly into place. She was smart, funny, and had this easy charm that pulled me in right away. She wasn't just my girlfriend, she was my best friend. I thought we built something unshakable over the years. The kind of relationship people look at and think, wow, those two are rock solid. At least that's what I thought. Things started shifting about a year ago. Nothing major at first, just little things I brushed off as stress. Claire got a promotion at work, which meant longer hours, more late-night emails, more business trips. I was proud of her. Honestly, I bragged about her to anyone who would listen. But with all that came distance. We weren't spending as much time together. And when we did, she was distracted. Phone always buzzing, laptop always open. I tried to be understanding. I cooked dinners, picked up more chores, told her I'd support her however I could. But in return, I felt like I was becoming invisible in my own marriage. She stopped asking about my day. She stopped laughing at my dumb jokes. Even our physical closeness started fading. Nights that used to end tangled up together now ended with her rolling over, phone in hand, scrolling until she fell asleep. At first, I told myself this was just a rough patch. Everyone goes through them, right? You ride it out, support your partner, and eventually things balance out. But then the little red flags started stacking up. One night, I noticed her texting late, later than usual. She was curled up on the couch, phone angled away from me, giggling at something. I asked what was so funny, and she brushed it off with, "Oh, just something from work." I wanted to believe her, but her tone was too casual, too rehearsed. Then came the password change. We'd always been open with each other about our phones. Not that we snooped, but if I needed to use her phone to check directions or play music, it was never an issue. Until one day, I picked up her phone to cue a song, and it asked for a passcode. A new one. Well, I didn't know. When I asked about it, she said, "Oh, IT made us change for security." Which sure, I guess. But she didn't offer me the code, and I didn't ask. That silence between us said everything. The real gut punch came a few weeks later. She had another work trip. I decided to surprise her by picking her up from the airport. I got there early, standing by arrivals with coffee in hand, excited to see her face light up when she spotted me. But when she came down the escalator, she wasn't alone. She was walking next to a guy, tall, clean-cut, carrying a briefcase. And the way she looked at him, laughing at something he said, brushing her hair behind her ear, it wasn't how you look at a coworker. It was how you look at someone you're secretly into. I froze. I didn't go up to her right away. I watched from a distance as they walked together toward the baggage claim. When he reached for her suitcase handle and she let him take it, something inside me cracked. That's the kind of thing I always did for her, the small, quiet gestures that made me feel needed. And now she was letting some other guy do it without a second thought. I forced myself to step forward before I lost my nerve. "Claire," I called out, pretending like I had just arrived. Her head snapped around so fast you'd think she'd seen a ghost. Her smile faltered just for a second before she plastered it back on. "Oh, hey, what are you doing here?" she said, all fake surprise. I held up the coffee cup. "Thought I'd surprise you. Welcome home." The guy beside her extended a hand. "I'm Mark. We work together." I shook his hand. Firm grip. Too firm. Like he knew exactly who I was and what I meant to her, and he wanted me to know he wasn't intimidated. The ride home was painfully awkward. Claire talked nonstop about work to fill the silence, but I could barely focus. My brain kept replaying the way she looked at him. That night, lying in bed next to her, I asked, "So, Mark's just a coworker?" She rolled her eyes. "Yes, babe. Don't be paranoid. He's married, by the way. Happily married. You have nothing to worry about." But I did, because even if he was married, I couldn't shake the feeling that she wasn't acting like someone who was happily married to me. And that's where the spiral started. I began noticing everything. Every late-night text. Every sudden work emergency. Every time she dressed up just a little too much for a meeting. My gut was screaming at me, but my heart didn't want to believe it. I love her too much. I didn't want to be the guy who accused his wife without proof. Then one night, proof landed in my lap. Literally. Claire had gone to take a shower, and her phone buzzed on the nightstand. Normally, I wouldn't touch it, but something in me snapped. I picked it up, and without thinking, swiped the notification. It was a message from Mark. Had a great time today. Can't stop thinking about you. I dropped the phone like it burned me. My chest felt like it was collapsing in on itself. She came out of the bathroom humming, hair wrapped in a towel, acting like everything was fine. I couldn't. Not anymore. Who is he to you, really? I asked, holding her phone up. The color drained from her face. And that's where I'll pause for now, because what came next was a conversation that shattered the last illusions I had about my marriage. She froze when she saw the phone in my hand. The towel slipped a little from her hair, but she didn't even bother fixing it. For a moment, the whole room was quiet except for the faint dripping of water from her shower. "Mark?" she repeated, her voice trembling. "You went to my phone?" I almost laughed. Not because it was funny, but because her first reaction was to turn it on me instead of owning what I'd just seen. "No," I said sharply. His message popped up. "Had a great time today. Can't stop thinking about you. Tell me, Claire, what part of that is just work?" She opened her mouth, closed it, then finally whispered, "It's not what you think." God, I hated that line. It's the universal excuse of someone who's guilty. "Then tell me what it is." I pressed. "Right now. No more excuses, no more vague answers." "Who is he to you?" She sat down on the edge of the bed, shoulders slumped, staring at the floor. I'd seen her sad before, stressed before, even angry. But I had never seen her look so small. "We got close," she said quietly. "It started harmless, I swear. We were working late, traveling together, just talking. He understood what I was going through at work. I didn't think it would go this far. I felt my blood boiling. Go this far? Claire, you're married. To me. You don't get to accidentally let another man text you that he can't stop thinking about you." Her eyes filled with tears. "I never slept with him. I swear on my life. We kissed. Once. It was stupid, and I regretted it immediately. But I didn't know how to tell you." I sat down hard on the chair across the room, my hands shaking. "So you let it keep going? You let him keep thinking about you, keep messaging you. You let this thing grow while you came home to me like nothing was wrong." "I was scared," she shouted suddenly, her voice breaking. "I didn't want to lose you. I didn't want to admit I'd messed up. I kept convincing myself it would fade out, that it didn't mean anything." "Didn't mean anything?" I snapped. "Claire, you gave him pieces of yourself that were supposed to be mine. You laughed with him, confided in him, kissed him. You don't get to say that means nothing." She was crying full on now, hands covering her face. I wanted to comfort her. My instinct screamed at me to wrap my arms around her, but I couldn't. Because the person crying in front of me was the same person who'd been lying to me for months. "I don't know what you want me to say," she whispered through her sobs. "I love you. I never stopped loving you. I was just lost." I stood up, pacing the room like a caged animal. "Lost? Claire, do you understand what this does to me? Do you understand what it feels like to be blindsided like this? I was planning trips for us, talking about buying a house. And meanwhile, you were sneaking around emotionally cheating on me." Her tears slowed, and she looked up at me with this desperate, pleading expression. "I'll cut him off. Completely. I'll quit my job if I have to. Just don't give up on us. Please. You're my husband. You're my life." And God help me, a part of me wanted to believe her. To believe that she meant every word. That this was a mistake she'd never repeat. But another part of me, the part that had been silently observing for months, wasn't so sure. I sat back down, staring at her. "Here's the thing, Claire. I don't know if I can trust you anymore. And without trust, what do we have?" She crawled closer on the bed, reaching for my hand, her fingers trembling. "We have history. We have love. We have 7 years of building a life together. Please, don't throw that away because of one mistake." "One mistake," I echoed. "This wasn't one moment. This was months. You built something with him behind my back. That's not a slip-up. That's a choice." She broke down again, whispering over and over, "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." The weight of her apology hung in the air, but it didn't feel heavy enough. Not compared to the weight in my chest. That night, I didn't sleep. I lay awake staring at the ceiling, her quiet sobs beside me, wondering how my life had gone from feeling secure and loved to completely shattered in just a few months. By morning, I knew things couldn't go on like before. We had to face this one way or another. I told her, we need space. I can't make any decisions right now, but I can't pretend nothing happened. I'm going to stay at Daniel's for a while. Her face crumpled, but she didn't argue. She just nodded, tears spilling again. Packing my bag was surreal. Every shirt I folded, every pair of shoes I grabbed, I remembered moments with her, vacations, date nights, lazy Sundays. And now I was walking away from all of it, at least for now. When I closed the door behind me, it felt like closing the door on the life I thought I had. At Daniel's, I spilled everything. He listened quietly, then said something I'll never forget. You don't have to decide today if you're done with her. But you do need to decide if you're willing to put yourself through the work it would take to ever trust her again. And that was the real question. Could I ever look at Claire the same way? Could I ever believe another, I love you, without wondering who else she was saying it to? That question haunted me as days turned into weeks. Claire called every day, sometimes just to leave voicemails when I didn't answer. She texted long apologies, begged me to come home, promised she was done with Mark forever. I wanted to believe her, but then I'd replay that message in my head, can't stop thinking about you, and the knife twisted all over again. That's when I decided we needed more than just promises. We needed the truth, laid bare. And if I was ever going to consider forgiving her, she had to give me that. So one evening, I called her and said, we need to talk. All of it. No holding back. If there's anything else I don't know, now's the time to tell me. There was a long silence on the line. Then she whispered, okay, come over tomorrow. I'll tell you everything. I hung up, my heart pounding, because tomorrow I was either going to get closure or confirmation that our marriage was beyond saving. Walking up to our apartment, the next evening felt like walking into a courtroom, except there was no jury, just me and Claire. My chest was tight, my palms sweating. I didn't know if I was about to hear something I could live with or something that would tear the last threads of us apart. When she opened the door, she looked like she hadn't slept in days. Eyes puffy, hair tied back messily, sweatshirt hanging off her frame. For the first time in weeks, she didn't put on a show. She didn't try to look composed. Come in, she said quietly. I stepped inside, and everything felt heavier. The couch where we used to watch movies together, the kitchen where we danced stupidly while cooking, even the picture frames on the wall, they all looked different, tainted. We sat across from each other at the table. She took a deep breath. You said you wanted the whole truth. I'm ready to give it to you. I braced myself. She started slow, voice trembling. I told you we kissed. That's true, but it wasn't just once. It happened a few times, always after work dinners, when we'd had too much to drink. I never planned it, but it kept happening. I clenched my fists under the table, but I didn't interrupt. She went on. I never slept with him. I need you to believe that. But I did. I let it get too far. The texts, the late night calls, the trips. He became important to me. I told myself it was harmless, but deep down I knew it wasn't. My heart was pounding so hard I could barely hear her. Still, I forced the words out. Were you in love with him? She shook her head immediately. No, it wasn't love. It was distraction. It was attention I was craving because I felt like I was drowning at work and didn't want to put it all on you. He made me feel seen in a way I didn't realize I was missing. But it was selfish and wrong, and I hate myself for it. Her voice cracked on those last words, and she buried her face in her hands. I sat there numb. Part of me wanted to scream, to tell her that not love didn't make it any less of a betrayal. But another part of me, the part that still remembered our first kiss, our wedding vows, the life we'd built, just felt heartbreak more than anger. I asked her, if I hadn't caught that message, would you have told me? Ever. She dropped her hands and looked at me, tears streaking her face. I don't know. Maybe not. And that's the worst part, because I know how much I've hurt you, and I can't take it back. Silence stretched between us. My mind raced in circles. Could we recover from this? Could therapy, time, and promises ever fix the hole she'd burned in us? Finally, I said, "Claire, I love you. I always have. But love isn't enough. You broke something in me I don't know how to repair." She reached across the table, her hand shaking. "Please don't give up on us. We can fix this. I'll do whatever it takes. Counseling, quitting my job, cutting off every contact with him. I'll prove to you I'm committed." I looked at her hand, but didn't take it. The thing is, I don't want to spend the rest of my life wondering if you'll do it again. I don't want to look at every late night text, every trip, and question what's really going on. That's not a marriage. That's prison. She sobbed, whispering, "Don't say that. Please." But I had to. "Claire, I can't keep living in this half-truth version of us. I deserve honesty. I deserve trust. And right now, I don't have either." When I stood up, she broke down completely, begging me to stay. Every step to the door felt like dragging my own heart across broken glass. But I knew if I stayed, I'd just be clinging to a ghost of what we used to be. I walked out. The days that followed were brutal. I questioned myself constantly. Was I being too harsh? Should I have fought harder? But every time I replayed her lies, her secrecy, the way she let it all spiral, I knew I'd made the right choice. I moved into a small apartment across town. Daniel and my sister helped me furnish it. At first, it felt hollow. No laughter echoing through the halls. No warm presence beside me at night. Just me and the echo of what I lost. But slowly, I started to heal. I reconnected with hobbies I'd abandoned. I spent more time with friends. I even joined a gym just to get out of my head. Life wasn't fixed overnight, but piece by piece, I was building something new, something that was mine. Claire reached out a few times. Long emails, tearful voicemails. I didn't respond. Maybe one day I'll find forgiveness in me, but it won't be today. Right now, I'm focusing on myself and on remembering that I deserve a love that doesn't make me question my worth. And if you're reading this, if you've ever been through something similar, I want you to know this. Walking away doesn't make you weak. It makes you brave, because it takes courage to choose yourself when someone else couldn't. This story was hard to share, but telling it here gives me some peace. And if you want to keep sharing more of these stories, real, raw, and sometimes painful, subscribing really helps me stay motivated. Every click, every bit of support reminds me I'm not just shouting into the void. It tells me these stories matter. So if you want to hear more, hit subscribe. It means more than you know. You ever have that gut feeling that something's just a little off, but you push it aside because you don't want to seem paranoid? That's exactly where I was at the start of all this. I've been dating Emily for almost 2 years when the cracks started to show. To most people, we probably looked like one of those stable couples. We had our routines, our inside jokes, and we made plans for the future. I thought we were in it for the long haul. But looking back, I realized I was ignoring a lot of little signs, hoping they'd just go away. The first thing that made me pause was her phone. Not the fact that she had it. We all live on our phones these days, but how she started guarding it like it was classified information. We used to sit on the couch together, both scrolling through our feeds, showing each other funny posts or memes. Then one day that changed. Suddenly, every time I got near her when she was texting, she tilted the screen away or locked it instantly. If a notification popped up, she flipped the phone face down. At first, I laughed it off. I teased her, saying, "What? You got state secrets in there?" She gave me this nervous chuckle and said, "No, just private stuff. You don't need to see everything." And technically, she was right. I didn't need to see everything. Everyone deserves a little privacy. But this wasn't the usual kind of privacy. This was new, sudden, and paired with a vibe I couldn't shake. Around the same time, she also started working late more often. Emily had a pretty demanding job in marketing, so overtime wasn't unusual. But she'd come home looking different. Not in a dramatic way, but just enough for me to notice. Sometimes her makeup looked freshly touched up, even though she claimed she'd been at the office all evening. Other times she smelled like a different kind of perfume, not the one she usually wore. I asked her once, casually, "Rough day at work?" She shrugged, gave me a quick kiss, and said, "Yeah, meetings ran long. You know how it is." Then she rushed off to shower, like she couldn't get in the bathroom fast enough. That was the first time I really felt that knot in my stomach tighten. I try not to spiral. I kept telling myself, don't be that guy. Don't be the insecure boyfriend who jumps to conclusions. But then came the weekend her story really didn't add up. She told me she had to go on a work retreat, a 2-day offsite with her team at some resort a couple of hours away. She packed light, said it was mostly workshops and team-building exercises. I wanted to believe her, so I kissed her goodbye, told her to have fun, and tried to distract myself with video games and hanging out with my buddy Josh. But Saturday night, while scrolling through Instagram, I stumbled across something that made my heart drop. One of Emily's co-workers, a woman I'd met at a couple of office parties, had posted a group picture from that very retreat. And there was Emily front and center. Only she wasn't with her team in some boring conference room. She was sitting at a poolside bar, drink in hand, leaning way too close to some guy I didn't recognize. The picture wasn't scandalous on its own. No kissing, no touching. But it was the body language, the way she angled toward him, the way her smile looked different than the one she gave me. It was subtle, but it screamed intimacy. I couldn't stop staring at it. My chest felt heavy, like I'd swallowed a rock. When she came back the next day, she acted completely normal. She walked through the door, tossed her bag down, kissed me hello, and asked what I wanted for dinner. I wanted to scream, to shove the photo in her face and demand answers. But I froze. I kept quiet because a part of me needed more than just one picture. That night, I barely slept. I kept replaying everything in my head. The guarded phone, the overtime excuses, the retreat photo. It all added up to something I didn't want to admit. The next morning, I decided to test the waters. Over breakfast, I casually asked, "So how was the retreat? Did you actually do any work? Or was it all poolside cocktails?" She froze for half a second, just long enough for me to notice before bursting into laughter. "Oh my God, no, it was exhausting. We had seminars all day. The only time we even saw the pool was walking past it to the dining hall." And just like that, she lied. I knew she lied because I saw the picture, but I didn't call her out, not yet. Instead, I smiled, nodded, and pretended I believed her, because now I needed a plan. I needed to know the full truth before I confronted her. That was the moment everything changed for me. I realized I wasn't just a boyfriend anymore. I was an investigator, quietly collecting evidence in a relationship that was supposed to be built on trust. And let me tell you, nothing eats away at you faster than living in that kind of limbo. The days after that retreat conversation felt like I was walking around with a storm cloud permanently hovering above me. On the outside, I was still going through the motions, work, friends, small talk with Emily, but inside I was unraveling. Every time she picked up her phone, every time she mentioned staying late, every time she smiled at notification, my mind was running 1,000 miles a minute. I tried telling myself I was overthinking, but the picture wouldn't leave my head. That image of her leaning toward some guy at the poolside bar played on repeat in my brain. And what made it worse was knowing she looked me dead in the eye the next morning and lied about it. One night, about a week later, she said she had to stay late again. I decided to accidentally drive by her office on my way home, just to see if her car was there. It wasn't. I sat in the parking lot for 10 minutes, double-checking every row, telling myself maybe she parked somewhere else. But no, her spot was empty. That was when my stomach sank, because there was no reasonable explanation left. I didn't want to jump straight into accusations, though. If I was going to confront her, I wanted to be absolutely sure. So I did something I never thought I'd do. I went through her bag. I hated myself while I did it, but I couldn't stop. My hands shook as I searched, half hoping I'd find nothing so I could tell myself I was being paranoid. Instead, I found a crumpled receipt from a restaurant. Dated the same night, she said she was working late. It was for 2 meals and a bottle of wine. And the location? Nowhere near her office. I just sat there on the couch holding that receipt, my heart racing. It was the confirmation I didn't want but couldn't ignore. When she came home later that night, she acted completely normal. She dropped her bag, kissed me on the cheek, and started talking about some crazy client call she had. I stared at her while she rambled, the receipt burning a hole in my pocket. Finally, I couldn't take it anymore. I pulled it out and set it on the counter in front of her. "Want to explain this?" The color drained from her face. For a split second, she looked like a kid caught stealing candy. Then she quickly grabbed the receipt, laughed nervously, and said, "Oh, that? I had dinner with a coworker. It was nothing." I raised an eyebrow. Wine and dinner for 2. and it just slipped your mind to mention it. She hesitated before blurting out, I didn't think it was important. That was it. That was the line that shattered me. Because if having dinner and splitting a bottle of wine with someone isn't important enough to tell your partner about, what else are you hiding? I asked her straight up, was it the guy from the retreat? She froze again. She didn't say yes, but she didn't deny it either. That silence told me everything. I wish I could say I calmly laid everything out and got the truth from her, but I didn't. My voice cracked as I asked her over and over why she felt the need to lie, why she couldn't just be honest. She kept insisting it was innocent, that she didn't want to upset me, but every excuse made my chest heavier. At one point, she snapped and said, You're being ridiculous. Do you expect me to report every time I grab food with someone? That's controlling. That was like gasoline on a fire. I told her, No, I expect you not to lie about where you are. I expect you not to pretend you're working late when you're out drinking with some guy. That's not controlling. That's basic honesty. She didn't answer. She just stood there, arms crossed, avoiding my eyes. We didn't talk much the rest of that night. She went to bed early, and I stayed on the couch staring at the ceiling, feeling more alone than I'd ever felt in my life. The next day, she texted me from work saying she wanted to take a step back and think about things. She claimed I was overreacting and that my trust issues were making her feel suffocated. That text nearly made me laugh out loud, bitterly. My trust issues? She was the one sneaking around, but somehow she was flipping it back on me. Classic deflection. Daniel, my best friend, was the first person I told everything to. I laid out the whole story. The guarded phone, the Instagram photo, the receipt. He didn't even let me finish before he said, Dude, she's cheating. I'm sorry, but that's what it is. Hearing it from him in such blunt words made it sink in. I wanted to deny it, to cling to the idea that maybe it wasn't that bad, but deep down I knew he was right. That night, Emily came over, probably expecting to smooth things over like she always did. She tried to cuddle up to me on the couch, acting sweet like nothing happened. I pulled away. We need to talk, I said. Her smile faltered. About what? You know what? I said flatly. About him. About all the lies. For the first time, I saw her drop the act. She sighed, leaned back, and muttered, I didn't mean for it to get complicated. And just like that, my heart broke again. Because she didn't deny it. She admitted it, even if she didn't say the words outright. I'll never forget the look on Emily's face when she finally let those words slip. I didn't mean for it to get complicated. She said it so quietly, almost like she was confessing to herself more than to me. But for me, it was confirmation. Everything I'd been afraid of, everything I'd been trying to convince myself wasn't true, was right there in that one sentence. I didn't blow up. I didn't yell. Honestly, I think my heart was too heavy to even be angry. I just sat there, staring at her, waiting to see if she'd say more. But she didn't. She just sat across from me, arms folded, eyes darting everywhere but mine. Complicated how? I finally asked. She bit her lip and said, I didn't plan it, okay? We just connected. I thought I could keep it casual, but it's got messy. Hearing her use the word we made my stomach twist. We used to be the we, and now there was someone else in that space where I thought we were solid. I leaned back and ran my hands over my face, trying to collect my thoughts. I wanted her to fight for us, to tell me she'd made a mistake and wanted to fix it. But she didn't. She just sat there like she was waiting for me to make the decision for her. Do you love him? I asked. She shook her head quickly. No, it's not like that. It's just exciting. Different. I don't know. That word, exciting, stung worse than anything else. Because what was I then? Boring? Predictable? Safe? I told her, if excitement is what you're chasing, then you don't need me. Because I was here building a life with you, not chasing thrills. She started crying at that point, and for a second I almost caved. I almost reached out, pulled her close, told her we'd figured out. But then I remembered the lies, the secrecy, the way she gaslit me when I confronted her with the receipt. And I couldn't do it. I can't be with someone who lies to me, Emily, I said. I don't care if it was 1 dinner, 10 dinners, or more. You broke my trust. And without trust, there's no us. She begged me then. She grabbed my arm, pleaded through tears, Please don't do this. I'll end it with him. I swear. I'll prove to you that I want only you. Just give me one more chance. But it was too late. Something inside me had already snapped. The person I thought she was, the person I trusted, didn't exist anymore. She'd made her choice the moment she lied to me the first time. I stood up, walked to the door, and said, I hope you find what you're looking for. But it's not me. She sobbed as I left, and I'll be honest, it took everything in me not to turn back. But I knew if I did, I'd just be signing up for more heartbreak down the line. The days after the breakup were brutal. I'd wake up in the middle of the night reaching for her, only to realize she wasn't there. I'd catch myself drafting texts I never sent. Every corner of my apartment reminded me of her. The coffee mug she liked, the throw blanket she picked out, even the smell of her shampoo lingering on my pillow. I leaned hard on my friends, Daniel especially. He kept reminding me that leaving her wasn't weakness, it was strength. That walking away from someone who doesn't respect you is one of the hardest things a person can do, but also the healthiest. Slowly, the fog started to lift. I started remembering who I was outside of her, my hobbies, my ambitions, the people who actually cared about me. I realized that I'd been compromising so much of myself just to keep the peace with someone who wasn't being honest with me. It's been months now, and I won't pretend I'm completely over it. Some days the memories still sting. Some nights I still wonder if she's with him, if she ever thinks about me. But then I remind myself that none of that matters anymore. What matters is that I respected myself enough to walk away. And honestly, if there's one thing I've learned from all this, it's that love without trust isn't love at all. It's just an illusion. If you've stuck with me through this whole story, thank you. Sharing this isn't easy, but getting it out there helps me heal, and knowing people are listening gives me motivation to keep telling more stories. So if you wanted to keep going, hit that subscribe button. It means more than you realize, and it really pushes me to bring more of these stories to life.